Hi, so this time I would like first to introduce this painting. So it's a weird one, I know, I am aware of it. It's a mix of the West with the East, so like two essential components of religiousness, religion, spirituality, philosophy, whatever you want to call it. And this is, in one hand, suffering, the reminding of suffering, like because life is suffering, or like because there is a sacrifice to make, or whatever. In the other hand, this happiness, joy thing, laughing. So the best case was to create a very strange two-in-one painting where you just don't even know if you should be feeling good or feeling bad when watching it. So that was the idea, because the laughing Buddha, like when you see just not a laughing Buddha, when you see someone laughing very strongly and authentically, genuinely, you wanna join him in his laugh. You wanna wonder like what's so funny, and maybe you want, if he's not making fun of you, then you want to laugh with him. And then if you want to see someone suffering, of course you're not a monster, so you cannot exactly feel the pain physically speaking, but you like putting yourself in the shoes of this person. So psychologically speaking, emotionally speaking, you feel the pain, you feel like bad for this person, you feel empathy, compassion, pity. So the two sides of it. Anyway, now I'm gonna just talk shortly about long travel. Why shortly? Because it's just gonna take many videos, so I prefer to do like a step-by-step thing. And as the same way, when you travel, you just do step by step, night by night, city by city, and you cannot just make a journey in one shot. So the most important parts of a journey are just like the intermediate points. So if you are somewhat curious about it, you can just listen to me. If you're not, or if you just don't listen to me, and that's it. It's quite easy. I just like to share. I know I'm not asked to do it. Just I have this strange philosophy, this strange thinking that I am selfish if I just don't share it potentially. So the ways I can share it through some kind of expressionism, sometimes somewhat realism through some art, drawings, paintings, otherwise, of course, the best realism you can offer through photography, because I don't plan at all. It's gonna be super hard to beat reality. Reality is always the best. So the way to capture reality is by excellence the photography, which I enjoy. My photos I'm gonna share to you are not always the best, but they're sometimes cool, like okay, seeable, let's say, like you enjoy, and it makes you just imagine, because anybody can tell you about specific travel like has been done, or some facts far away from your home. You only can project yourself in these shoes, but you never can know it 100% the way it is. Same as you, if you want to tell me one of your experiences, I can only imagine. So it's gonna talk to my imagination about your story, what really went on, like what was going on, what happened exactly, how you reacted, how I would feel if I were you, emotionally speaking, and so on. So now let's start it. So the travel I've done was travel from Vietnam, because I used to live in Hanoi, the capital, to France by land with no plane. In the end, it's been more complicated than I thought. I got to use a plane from India to Dubai, then take a boat to go to Iran. But I wanted to go through Pakistan. Just happened that they just didn't grant me the visa. So hopefully one day, after COVID drama, after whatever, if I'm somewhat lucky, I would go to Pakistan just to finish this missing part of the puzzle. And from China, I tried to go to Pakistan, could not do it. So I'm gonna start with China. When I started, it was in 2013, and I arrived in France in 2014. So I took my time on the way, seeing the maximum of things, working a little bit, but also getting scammed. So I think I lost more than I earned in India, to be honest. And arriving quite broke in France. That's what happens to just most travelers. So this is like very most of the time a price to pay unless you clever enough to like lucky enough sometimes also to find some ways to work online to generate some money, because let's be very honest with this, it's quite easy to just travel spending very little money, like way less than you may expect it, and then you may be surprised, because when you're just in your own routine, staying in one city, or like just having your like fighting boredom in your own ways, like you just can't accept the routine, then you try to do some crazy spendings here and there into something to have or something to do, to experience, and so on. You wanna also keep it with the joiners, keep a somewhat a social status and everything, and it makes you spend way more than you may expect also. And when you travel, like I would call it egoless travel. I don't know how to say. Just like traveling is the most important thing, seeing the things. So you feel rich in that way already. In that movement, you feel rich. So you just realize you can go through to one meal, two meals a day, cheap ones, and you can be hosted through couch surfing. So in China, I've been hosted a lot, luckily. So that's how we start. Sometimes it was through couch surfing, which was a good platform, and that can happen to you. And sometimes then it was just circumstances, and I would say some kind of funny circumstances. So that's where I'm gonna start emotionally. I will divide China, of course, in different parts, because China is like a continent. So this is not about the number of countries you visited. This is about the number of provinces inside each country, somewhat, plus the depth of the experience in each country. So this is not a race. You're not here to prove you're gonna visit more countries than this guy or that girl, whatever. Just stay wherever you like, go wherever you're curious to go, keep for later from other places. Even if you're not that tempted, try it sometimes and enjoy it and learn new things and so on. It's all about you with you. This is not about others, you know. But still, I want to share the experience about like emotional aspect and just the experience aspect, some observations, and I hope for some people they can be curious to just travel by land. Because why did I want to travel by land? It was to understand that from point A to a point B in from a very big distance. Then, if the world is like a book, you just read page by page, even if you cannot read each line because it's so much to see, but you still have a better idea this way rather than if you just take a plane from like Vietnam to France, poof, just like kind of teleport yourself in that place, and you don't see this sliding of civilizations and culture and ethnography, like the different faces getting closer to like the westerner face and so on, and you can project yourself into history, anthropology. It's like very broad, very vast, but very fascinating. So that way I plan in my future, hopefully, if I'm still healthy somewhat, everything is fine, to do some big long travels, taking my time, racing with no one, just from maybe Patagonia to Alaska by land, or like to from Egypt to South Africa by land, from Senegal to Somalia by land. I can tell, you know, like the Silk Road as well. There's just so much. So I was close to do something similar to the Silk Road, but Indiana passed by India, but that's the whole story. So first, I'm gonna share parts south of China, then center of China up to Beijing, then from Beijing until Mongolia, then not going back from Russia, even if one day I would love it. So that's maybe for another travel. Then finally going inside, like inner China, up to through Xi'an and Chengdu, then up to the west of China, very interesting place, like a total different culture, and that's where like the trip starts to become really colorful. Through Xinjiang, the famous Xinjiang, the west of China, northwest of China, and then the very famous Tibet, of course. and then from Tibet to Nepal. Nepal, which is like the transition, that was the biggest change for me from China to Kathmandu. It's like, wow, people look really different. I understood why the range of the Himalayas just separated a lot the cultures, even if spiritually speaking, there are like a lot of similarities, of course, but like then you're like in another world. And you, Nepal was a nice transition, let's say a soft one, up to India, like where there is the total chaos, but the most colorful one, intense chaos, but very interesting place. Some of the I don't even know why it's one of my favorite places, because I'm not too much in the hippie vibe, wanna be so calm and like spiritual, but that was like a cold shower in like the way I felt, and it made me very awake, because you cannot just sleep on your travel. Then you need to be very aware of what's going on around you. Most of the time, if you just let go, you can turn really almost crazy or in danger. So you really need, you feel alive through this, sometimes adrenaline, like let's say, and you have a very dark but beautiful, colorful also aspect, like high contrast, and between some very beautiful things, some very bad things. So that's like the most intense country I've been. But then the one that followed, Dubai, was like a checkpoint, let's say, for a short time, like kind of wonderful plastic flowers, still plastic, I would say. But like, of course, for people doing business, it's a great place. But that was not my interest number one. Even if in India I was like starting. Feeling like so inspired for like doing crazy businesses, so good projects I kept in mind and I keep in mind still. I'm gonna just adapt with some more realism, because enthusiasm can be dangerous somewhat. And then I jumped to by boat to from Sharjah to Iran, and Iran was like also a very intense place that you hear bad things from the news, but then you go through what the media say usually, and then you discover also contrasted country, kind of different from India. It's more like between a very sophisticated, elegant, intellectual, profound, and rich in history country, or like that contrast with some very Muslim, theocratic, um, energy. I don't know how to say, like with some sometimes social pressure, and even up to the traveler. And in Iran, I turned somewhat feminist, but in a way that I would not be in the West. It's like old school feminist, I would say. I was just like, but just leave the women alone. Like that is a bit too much to try to regulate them. Are you scared of women? So that's how I felt. Then the transition to Turkey made me feel I was almost to Europe, like, and almost like Turkey is somewhat sometimes closer to Europe than to the Middle East. It's a very, we call it the Sublime Gate. That's not for nothing, but like in Turkey, I was like already, oh damn it, prices are somewhat high, and it, it was not that expensive, but I was just used to Asia, so I was like, ah, that's expensive, but like no, it was not. But like maybe I've been used too much to travel cheap, and then it was the end of my journey, so I started stressing out so much for money, and almost like poisoning my mind because of the thought of it, like. Cannot even enjoy simple things, just wondering how to still travel as cheap as possible, no matter what, no matter the cost. And I think that was a bit too much. Then I went to Bulgaria by bus. So Bulgaria felt like already in Europe, but there was like this Eastern vibe. Actually, I don't know why Sofia reminded me of a city in south of France called Montpellier, but anyway. And then I didn't want to travel in Europe, like thinking almost I didn't have enough budget and everything, but of course I would love to do it one day. So I just took a bus from Sofia to Bordeaux in west of France, seeing some friends from Bordeaux, Toulouse, up to my hometown in Perpignan. So that journey was like a total of 1 year, and full of up and down, but of course, generally speaking, very interesting to learn about. So that's an explanation of the journey. And I will share step by step stories about it for whoever can potentially be curious about it. Cheers.